Why, hello, everybody. This is Eric Vierthaler of Vierthaler Studios here once again, back for another episode of Sit Down by the Fire. I'm here with my next special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Melanie Kinnaman. You know me from Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
Awesome. Well, I certainly greatly appreciate you taking the time out to be here today. And so, I guess my first question what inspired you to get into acting?
Oh, God. Well, I started very young. I was about 4 or 5 years old. I'd asked my parents because I'm a dancer. So I started dancing, excuse me, and they took me for dancing lessons. And I'm a singer dancer. So that's what started it out. I started getting jobs singing and dancing. And then I always wanted to be an actress, so that kind of parlayed all the singing and dancing and musical shows that I did, parlayed that into acting. So I got out of the chorus and actually got at speaking roles.
Awesome. Well, and then after that, the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, do you feel like that with your dance background, do you feel like that ever influenced any of your roles that you either tried out for or the roles that you did get?
Well, I did get a lot of roles in New York City. It was all musical stuff from the singing and dancing, but from that, I was able to get into dramatic things also.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, there certainly are a lot of actors like who have that background in like physical activities. Like
Mhm.
I believe one of the reasons why Keanu Reeves like got the role of John Wick is because that he actually did like a lot of combat in real life, and so yeah, and I mean, oftentimes like it helps you to get roles.
Absolutely, and it branches you out to do different things. So many people started out, like you said, in different directions, but it led you into the more dramatic or acting. Some people started in comedy doing stand up and they got into acting. Whatever you can use to get yourself into um, your goals is the way to go. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's so many different avenues, like so many different ways to go to get you to the final point.
Oh yeah, and I mean, certainly, and I mean, of course, I just feel like that's all just a part of the journey, like with doing what you love, right?
Right, right, right. I apologize for I'm getting over laryngitis. The weather has been so atrocious here in Los Angeles. It's like 100 degrees and dry. So,
Oh geez, well, yeah, and I mean, hey, I mean, it's totally fine. You got to do what you got to do just to survive, and yeah, and I mean, ultimately, what matters is that you're taking care of yourself.
yes.
So yeah, so about the Los Angeles thing,
Mhm.
in your own opinion, uh, do you say that anybody who wants to pursue filmmaking or acting in general, do you say that they have to live in Los Angeles
Oh,
or?
no. No, I mean, I started out in New York City. It does help to be in a major hub of showbiz. That's how you get work. That's how you start. Like I said, I started in New York City. I did everything I needed to do there, in my opinion, and I moved to Los Angeles. Atlanta is a place people are going to Atlanta, but you can start out anywhere in your hometown and eventually you have to go where the work is. So wherever that takes you. In America, it's New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta. There are a few other places now, but you don't have to be in Los Angeles. It's my least favorite place to live. But
Yeah,
I prefer New York City. But all the work brought me here to Los Angeles, and I stayed because I get work here.
makes sense. Yeah, and from what I've been told, like from some of my friends who live in LA, one of them said it's crazy expensive, and I've heard like that the crime rates have gone up, and I've heard that traffic is a pain in the rear end to
Mhm.
have to deal with. And so, yeah, I mean, being in LA, yeah, it might help you to get work, but it's not going to be easy.
No, I don't think it's easy anywhere. And I think
True.
that, the way things are now, everything is expensive no matter where you live, from what I hear. People live in small towns in middle America told me it's gotten expensive. So, yes, Los Angeles and New York are more expensive. But like you said, that's where, if you're getting work, that's where you have to live.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, you just have to learn how to be smart about your money and your time. And I mean, ultimately, if you don't need to buy it, well, then you shouldn't. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for answering that. And so, probably a question that you get a lot. Were you a fan of Friday the 13th before getting the part in part five?
I didn't know anything about Friday the 13th. I had never seen them because I don't like horror movies, which is kind of funny. And so I hadn't seen it when I auditioned for it. I didn't know, I knew it was horror related, but that didn't mean a whole lot to me. I didn't know it was a Friday the 13th. It meant nothing to me, like I said. So after I got the role, they told me everything. And I asked to see part four so I would know what I've, the history and what I've gotten into. And I need something to work off of, a springboard to start me with part five. So that was very helpful to see part four.
Oh yeah, and I mean, well, and I mean, having that definitely helped you to have that foundation, like to have some to build upon. And it's ironic that you mentioned you're not a fan of horror movies, because even from my research, Jamie Lee Curtis, who is best known for Halloween,
Yes.
even she says she's not a fan of horror movies either. But yet, one of the things that I do appreciate about her, though, like, is the fact that she has acknowledged if it wasn't for Halloween, she wouldn't be where she's at now. And I can imagine that you probably feel the same way with Friday the 13th.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I still don't like horror films. I still do them. I'm very grateful that this came my way, Friday the 13th. I'm grateful for the fans, and it was a way to continue my career from there, starting in horror and moving forward from there. But it was not expected, and I still don't watch them.
Yeah, well, and I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, every movie is going to have its target market, and and I mean, it sucks, but I mean, at the end of the day, like you really truly can't please everybody. But yeah, it's also great that you got opportunities like with the horror genre, and yeah, and I think a really good philosophy to go by in life is that life opens up opportunities for you, and you can either take them or you cannot take them, and then wish that you did.
And do the best you can and be very grateful that it came your way, and just be honest and truthful to the project. And now I'm very grateful to the franchise. I'm very loyal to the franchise. It was a whole new opening for me, and I learned so much after the film, not doing it, but afterwards I learned all about the franchise I knew nothing about, and I learned that through the fans, through doing interviews or for doing conventions, which I started very late. I didn't start doing conventions until 2011.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't do them. So um, I learned a lot doing them from the fans. I learned so much about the horror franchise, and the loyalty of the fans blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm just really surprised that you didn't start doing conventions until then. Like, were you just not ever approached sooner?
No, I was approached all the time. The truth is, I just didn't want to take money from fans. And then all this time, fans were contacting me through email, sending me these photos that they purchased with a signature, and it wasn't my signature. So I said, well, that's a forge, and they paid a lot of money for it. So this kept happening. And I would say to the person who contacted me, the fan, I'd say, no, it's not real. And they said, oh my God, I spent $50, I spent $100, whatever it was. So I felt really bad about that. And I thought, okay, I will do these shows because the fans want the autographs, the merchandise, the pictures, what have you, and they want their things signed. So at least I can control that and give them the authentic signature.
Right.
So that's why I really started doing it. And when you do conventions, you have to charge, So, but that's what held me back. I just didn't want to charge fans. I would see people on the street, they'd ask for autographs and I'd give it to them. But I knew way back that the conventions were people come in, they pay money to get in, you charge them for your autograph. I knew the system, I just didn't like it. But now I'm doing it for a reason that if the demand is there and the product is there, then I don't want people getting screwed. And I also don't want to get screwed myself that someone's signing my name and making money off of me. That's not cool either.
Nope.
So, but it took me years. And then I finally said in 2011, I said, you know what? The fans want it. I can control it. And it's not fair to me that somebody out there is making money off my name. So that's the truth, why it took me so long.
Well, I mean, it's very unfortunate by the fact that there was somebody like forging all these autographs to fans and duping them out of their own hard-earned money.
Yeah. It was very depressing to get these emails and the pictures that and some of them spent a lot of money. So I don't know if it was dealers. I don't know who was forging, but it was more than one person. It was a whole network of people forging my name. And I'm sure a lot of other people's names. It's not just me, but that was the impetus for me to go and do conventions.
Well, and I mean, so pretty much like you took a bad experience, and then you turned it upside down on its head, and then you made it into a positive one.
Yeah, I tried to make it positive for everybody. And in the end, it was a positive thing for me because I'm meeting fans, I'm making a little bit of money, and everybody's happy. Nobody is getting screwed.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I mean, ultimately, it will be something like what fans like can cherish for the rest of.
And it might as well be the real deal. And also, they're getting an autograph in person. I mean, I'm there. Excuse me. I'm meeting them. We're talking, and they're getting the autograph. I think that's a lot better than throwing money through the internet, through these websites, and getting phony material.
Oh yeah, and I mean, just knowing that it's in person, I just feel like that enhances the experience.
I would think so. There's a personal touch to it,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I would still be happy even if I got it online because it is still an autograph.
Oh, sure.
But it doesn't feel the same though if it's not in person.
Right. And I do, for a lower fee, I do charge if people contact me directly and they can't make it to conventions, and could I please send a signed photo, I will do that, and I ship it to them. And lately it's been all over the world. I'm sending to Australia and Germany.
Oh, wow.
And France, and yeah, it's been great. I've met a lot of people through the internet sending the autographs.
Oh yeah, and I mean, just even like with the advent like of the internet, and I mean, it definitely has made it a lot easier like to network. It's definitely made it a lot easier to even break into the film industry.
Yes.
Because around like 100 years ago, that kind of stuff didn't exist. And as far as my knowledge goes, at that time, like you really truly had to go to Los Angeles. But nowadays, you don't have to.
No.
And yeah, and on top of that, you can meet a lot of fans like who are not just in your area. And unfortunately, there are some fans like who just can't make it for whatever financial reason.
Yeah. I hear it's costly because they have to pay to get there, they have to pay to get in, and then they have to pay the person whose autograph they're seeking. So
yeah, exactly. It's because actors and all these people in the movie industry, they are people too. And I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, they have bills and food that they have to pay for too.
Well, it's primarily, for me, I'll speak for myself, but most of the actors I know, it's compensation for flying there. You're usually gone a week or so. It's taking you out of your life. Most of us pay, we have to pay to get to the airport, that kind of thing. It's little bills here and there. You're paying an Uber to get there. You're not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It adds up. You're buying your food, So Some people overcharge. I've heard about that. I don't think that's cool. I
Nope.
just no. I think it's unfortunate. It's kind of given a bad name to the conventions because most of us do not do that. We're trying to give the fans what they want, and we're also trying to be compensated for the money that we've put into it. So
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, just for people, to even get to these cons, like they have to invest a lot of their time
that's it.
that they're never going to get back, and
Mhm.
and sometimes they have to pay even to travel themselves, unless if whoever's putting it on like
Right,
is kind enough to pay for them.
right, 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 right.
But yeah, so what are the memories that you have about your first con?
Well, I was so nervous. It's kind of funny. I was Monster Mania was my first one in 2011 in Baltimore, and I was traveling with Tom Morga and Ted White and Brooke Bundy, who I'd never met, and she was in another franchise. She's in Nightmare on Elm Street, but she was very, very kind. She knew I was nervous, and she said she was kind of nervous, so she befriended me. And I never forgot that. She was very, very nice to me and made me feel better. So the first con, like I said, I was nervous, but the fans made me feel so welcome. I didn't know what to expect, and they were so nice. And they told me all kinds of great stories about what it was like to see the movie for the first time, or how they feel about the franchise or horror movies, or what they felt about my character. All that stuff was a very exciting, and I got over my nerves the first day. But
Yeah,
it's very scary. You're going out there and you don't know what's going to happen. I had gotten so much before I did the convention. I'd gotten so much love hate. I mean, I didn't even know about the hate for part 5. I was stunned. So that made me nervous going to conventions because I had heard that a lot of people were angry about part 5, and I couldn't figure that out.
yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Like at the end of the day, like you really truly can't please everybody. Like
Mhm,
if you try to do something
mhm.
different, people will complain. But yet, if you do
Mhm.
the same thing, people will
They
complain.
They're right.
And
You
yeah, and
can't.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, ultimately, you didn't have any control like over what
No,
story.
no. And I said, look, I was just a character in this film, and I didn't write it. And in the end of the day, it's just a movie.
It
Why
is,
are you
yeah.
so angry? It's just a movie. But they took it very personally and almost blamed me for it. So that was the main reason why I was nervous going to the first convention.
I can see why, and I mean, something like that is something what people don't want to deal with. People don't want to
Mhm.
have to deal with negative energy,
Right.
but it's also good to know that on the other side of that coin, it is good to know that you had encounters like with more positive fans too.
Oh, yes, it was mostly positive once I'd done that first one, and I got very little negativity in person. So
Which
much,
it's yeah, which is certainly good to know that you had more good experiences rather than bad experiences. Which and
I, w-
then
I wouldn't have continued to do them if it was negative. You know what I mean? It makes sense. So yes, it was positive. I've had a few things happen at conventions that I won't talk about with negativity and meanness, but for the
right.
most, it really is. It has been a very positive situation.
Yeah, which, and I mean, of course, if it's going to be a bad experience for you, that's something that you don't want to invest your time and money
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
into. So yeah, so yeah, I am definitely very very glad to hear that that was a good experience for you. I mean, in my own opinion, you probably will agree. The moment somebody asks you for your autograph, I feel like that's one of like the biggest compliments that you could ever get.
Mhm. Yes, yes. I mean, it's very, it means they liked what you've done. They liked the film. They liked your character. They liked your portrayal. They think you're good. So yeah, it's all complimentary.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And well, my first Friday movie was part 8.
Uh-huh.
But then the second one I actually saw like was part 5. I remember I was a kid. I turned on AMC, and then Friday Part 5 was on. And the coincidence, because I'm talking to you now, the scene that came up when I watched it on AMC actually was your scene at the very end. So,
Oh, okay.
so
Yes.
yeah, and then because of that, I feel like that my memories with Friday the 13th, it's always gonna tie back to Part 8 and to Part 5.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's good. That's interesting. The first thing you saw of Part 5 was the end.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. Yeah, and I was so confused. It's because I didn't see the other half of the movie, since that I had,
Yeah.
I was doing other things, and yeah, and then I saw you battling Roy like on top of that, like on top of like that barn or whatever it was. And then he fell through those spikes, and yeah, and then the mask was revealed that it wasn't really Jason, and that's one of the things that some fans praise Part 5 for is the fact that the fact it was different and that they went back to the who did it vibe like from the original movie.
Yeah, and so I thought it was very interesting and courageous, in my opinion, to try something different because they had done 4, and they just wanted to do something different, which is why it was called A New Beginning. But they got a lot of flack for it.
Yeah, and a lot of fans will say that Part 5 is like the Halloween 3 of the series, like where they do something different, and then fans are divided either way if they like it or not.
Right.
Excuse me, but yeah, and I mean, I certainly do give them credit the fact that they wanted to do something different, especially how there were 4 movies that came before, and
well, I was signed on to do 5 and 6. When I got 5, I was going to do 2 movies. I'm still crying about that. And they they changed their mind because of the backlash about not being Jason. So they were bringing me back for Part 6. I'm sorry. We'd finished 5. We had 2 months off. They sent me a script, and it was Part 6 was going to pick up from that last scene on Part 5, and it was going to continue. And then I got a call that they changed their mind because John Shepherd decided he didn't want to do horror movies anymore. John and I were both scheduled to do Part 6. So when John didn't want to do it anymore and bailed out, I said, well, bring me back. They said, we can't do that. It won't make sense. I think it would have, but anyway. So they went a whole different way. John and I weren't in it. They weren't going to pick up Part 6, finished from Part 5. And they have a whole new story and
But yeah, I mean, I'm very sorry that you had to deal with that. I mean, dealing with that must have been pretty difficult to deal with, probably because that you probably were so excited, like to come back for Part 6 and to expand upon your character.
Yes, yeah, and it was an interesting script, and yeah, I was very excited, and they had to pay me for the both Part 5 and 6, but that didn't matter to me. I wanted to do the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a real shame that you didn't get to have the opportunity.
Yeah, I think it would have been great.
But I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, since that legacy sequels seem to be in right now, so I mean, it's certainly possible that they could do that, and then bring back a character that way.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm actually in meetings now. I can't talk about it, but I'm in meetings now with some private producers who want to do Part 6 the way they think it should have been done. So
awesome.
Yeah,
it's our little secret.
But who knows? A lot of things don't ever happen. So it's a wait and see, but we're in talks.
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta wait and see what happens.
But everything in life, right? Show business, movies, life, everything in life. It's a wait and see. I've learned that. Haven't you?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah.
As you get older, everything is wait and see.
Yeah, and I feel like a circumstance from my life that ties into that. Ironic how you said you're not a fan of horror movies, but you did Friday Part 5. For me, I was not a fan. I mean, like for me in country music, I hated it with the burning passion when I was a teenager, and to be honest,
now you love it.
Well, I mean, I like it now, but it's still not my favorite genre. But what's really ironic is that this year I actually was in a country music video.
Oh,
And originally I was just going to be an extra, but I was at the right place at the right time.
good for you.
Yeah, I certainly do appreciate that. Yeah, I was at the right place at the right time, and then the director spotted me and he gave me a bigger role, like where I have a beer bottle smashed on my head and I get into a fist fight scene. I'm like, bring it on.
Good for you. See, you
You know,
never know what life is going to bring you. Out of the blue, you get something.
exactly, yeah, and and it's and it just makes me think that that if I would have turned that down my because of how country music hasn't always been my favorite, I would have missed out.
Hmm. Yeah, you have to stay open. I've learned that also. Stay open to all possibilities because you just never know what's going to come in your door, you know? And when you open that door, kick it wide open and go right through. I'm telling you.
Exactly,
The
yeah.
door opens for you, kick it open. If it's a bad door, slam it shut because another one's going to open that's better for you.
Exactly. And then and then after that, like it's all just the pieces fall just like
That's it. That's it. Hopefully they
dominoes.
fall in line. Sometimes they don't, and you get out and you move forward. You know, things don't always go the way you think they're going to go, but you move forward and they may go better than you expected in another direction, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it goes back to the quote like from Rocky about
Mhm.
how it ain't about how hard you get hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
That's it. That's it. A lot of great quotes from the Rocky series, to tell you
Oh,
the truth.
definitely. Yeah,
So
definitely.
many. I live by a couple of them. Just get up and keep going is one of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. So if you had to say, if they brought back your character for Friday Part
Mhm.
13,
Mhm.
what direction would you want your character to go in?
That's an interesting question. No one's asked me that. Good for you. I would like her to continue where we left off. She was a very positive character. She was a survivor. And even if she's attacked and it doesn't go well, I want her to be a fighter till the very end. And I want her message to be kindness, kindness to other people. Even if you go down, you know what I mean? Even if you go down in flames, the kindness to other people.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly really, really like that idea. And, and if it turns out that whoever
Mhm.
is making the next Friday movie, if they happen to watch this interview, I certainly think that they should take that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, of course, anytime. And yeah, and I feel like it was a really big missed opportunity, like to have a new movie out in 2013. Is because that's just super obvious, like to release a Friday movie, like like in 2013, and it's a real shame that we missed that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, now they can release one hopefully in the future on a Friday the 13th, you know.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, from what I've heard, the reason why there hasn't been a new movie is because of all the legal issues with Sean
That's it.
Cunningham and Victor Miller.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. And then they seemed to get that solved and then there were other issues with producers. You know, there's always something. It's unfortunate. Just get it done, you know.
It is, yeah, and I feel like it's because it's been so long ever since a new movie came out, which is why the fans are getting more and more anticipated about a new movie. I mean, I actually remember going to watch the more recent one in theaters, and that was when I was a freshman in high school, and
Wow.
now that was 15 years ago now, and that just blows my mind that it's been that long now.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but you know, maybe they'll get it together and something fabulous will happen.
Yeah, just got to keep your fingers crossed, right? So yeah, so you are best known for Friday Part 5, but yet you also have done other things with your life
Mhm.
besides that. So yeah, so talk about your positive experiences like with acting and show business besides Friday Part 5.
Oh, let's see. I got cut out of Best of the Best, but that was a great experience. I played Eric Roberts' girlfriend. I had 15 callbacks for that role. I desperately wanted that role. They kept bringing me back. Um, I finally got it, and
Awesome.
we shot it. We did it, and then I went to the casting crew screening, and I was cut. All of my scenes were cut, but I'm still in the credits. So I still get residuals and stuff, but I wanted to be in that film and I'm not in it. And everyone asks me all the time, your name is in the credits. What role did you play? So because of Screen Actors Guild, they couldn't cut me out and they had to give me credit, but I'm not in that film. But it was a great experience. Kane Hodder was in it. Christopher Penn, Sean Penn's brother, who I became friendly with. He passed away, God rest his soul, but
I'm
he was
sorry.
fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. It's just unfortunate that I didn't make it to the screen on that.
That is a shame.
I did a lot of television. One of my favorite experiences was being on Cheers. I got to guest star for a week with that incredible cast. I worked with them for a week. We shot in front of a live audience on a Friday night. It was like doing a Broadway show. It was unbelievable. I learned a lot on that, and I worked with the greatest director and cast. So that's just some of my good stuff. Recently, I've done a couple of features that aren't out yet. They're in the post-production phase, so I can't talk about them yet. But I will be putting that on my social media when that is ready to come out, and I can say the name and stuff. So
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'm definitely very sorry to hear that your scenes got cut.
yeah,
But
I was shocked.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, if I was in your shoes, I would have been devastated because
I
no.
was. I was. That took me a long time to get over that one. Yeah. So now I do conventions and fans come with a poster for Best of the Best kind of as a joke, but they have me sign it because my name is there, but I'm not there.
Yeah,
So
well, I at least hope that for like the DVD, I at least hope that they had like your
no,
scene like as a feature.
no, nothing. It's as if I never did it. It's as if, thank God my name was in the credits because it would look like I'm lying about it, you know?
Yeah, at least that there's that.
Nowhere. I am nowhere in this thing. So yeah.
That sucks. I am really sorry that you had to
I've
deal with
had a couple of experiences like that. Actually, my best career stuff was in New York City when I was doing theater. None of that stuff happened. It was all positive. So I had some good times in New York before I came to big Hollywood, and had some great times, but had a lot of let's just say interesting, devastating experiences. I am just got an offer to write a book. So
Awesome.
I started yesterday, and I'm writing a book. They're very interested in it, and I have some good people behind it. So that will come out. And I'm writing about, all the things I've done prior to Friday the 13th and things that happened to me after Friday the 13th and all the life stuff. But I'll be telling some good stuff about the shooting of Friday and some other things that happened after it. And then I'll also be talking about present day, which has been very interesting. So that will also be in the book.
Awesome. Well, I certainly will be sure to check out that book when it comes out. Do you have any idea when it's going to be published?
Not till, well, I still have to finish writing it and then it
Oh,
goes through channels and stuff. So I'm thinking not till later next year, but it's something that I could talk about at conventions and bring copies. They'll put me on a book tour. So fans can even come to that, If they can't come to conventions, they can come to bookstores and get me to sign stuff and also get the book.
yeah, exactly. It just gives the fans like more things to look forward to.
Mhm,
So
mhm. So we have a Friday the 13th coming up, and that's, oh my God, it's coming up in a week and a half. I'm going to be on Friday the 13th and the 14th at Monroe Comic-Con, which is in Monroe, Michigan, and I'm going to be there with Tom Morga.
awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be there together on Friday the 13th. So if anyone's in the neighborhood, if you live anywhere near Michigan, we are rarely together, Tom and I. So come and see us. And the one after that, Tom and I are together again. Like we haven't been together in 13 years. We're together again in Kingman Comic Con, which is a new one, and that's in Kingman, Arizona. So if you live near Vegas or anywhere, drive there and come and see us, because I'll be there with Tom Morga, Shavar Ross, and Ron Sloan. It's a reunion of Part 5.
Awesome. And I just find it really ironic how it's been 13 years ever since when you last
I
saw
know.
it, and it's going to be on a Friday the 13th. So
yeah. No, it's great.
That's amazing. And also a coincidence is that with the upcoming Friday the 13th, there's actually going to be a screening like of Part 5 over in my area. So it's just a big coincidence.
And I hear they're showing it. Everyone's writing to me. They're showing it at certain theaters on Friday the 13th, and they're showing it at a drive-in theater or something. And also, as you know, AMC on television, they have Fear Fest. They show it all through October. So it's going to run, all through October, and also Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Month.
Yeah.
13th, yeah.
Oh, yeah, certainly. And I mean, it makes sense out of all days to show it on a Friday the 13th. So
yes, very smart.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's all part of the marketing. And yeah, the law, like say, if there's a screening, if you pay $13, you and then can get whichever other item like for free or
really
something. So yeah, so
that's great.
Sense. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, with the number 13.
Yeah, that must be fun for fans to go somewhere in your town showing the movie on Friday the 13th. You all go out with your friends, get scared. Probably not scared anymore because you've seen them all. You know where the kills are coming, so you're not frightened anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like even though it may not be as enticing as the first time, but I mean, certainly
it's nostalgia now. When you go with your friends, you're kind of thinking back to when you first saw it. A lot of people were young kids, so it's nostalgic.
Oh yeah, certainly. And I mean, it's just the experience of going to watch it like with people who and are comfortable with. Like it certainly adds like to the overall experience of having fun with
it. Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, and so I also saw on your IMDb that you did an episode of Saturday Night Live.
You did.
How was that experience like?
Again, it was a great experience. Like Cheers, I got to work with the original cast. I was there with Belushi and everybody, so it was pretty amazing. And the musical guests that night were the Rolling Stones. I mean, how could it get any better?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I mean, not that many people can say that they had an opportunity like that to be on Saturday Night Live.
No, I worked with Gilda Radner. I worked with all of them. Yeah. It was an incredible experience. Obviously, I was still living in New York at the time. I believe we shot that in 1978, 77 or 70. I have to look it up, but I think it was 78. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it at least was sometime around then, which is ironic because that's around the time when Halloween came out. And Victor Miller, who I had the pleasure of having on my podcast with.
He's a nice guy.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, he's a very, very direct person. Like
I like that.
I also do. I mean, I definitely really like the fact that he doesn't beat around the bush about things. So I like that he will tell you straight up.
That's it. I prefer that. That's rare.
It is, yeah. Like a lot of people will sugarcoat things.
No, I'm that way because I got so tired of people sugarcoating and lying and whatever, So yeah, I like direct. What you see is what you get,
Exactly. And yeah, and Victor was telling me that he got inspired by how much of a hit Halloween was. And so that he was saying how he followed the same formula of teenagers going to somewhere where they shouldn't go and a killer's point of view and all that. So
that's interesting.
Oh, it is, yeah. And I mean, Victor's definitely one of the most direct people I have ever met. And what I love about him is that there's even times where he'll do it in a very humorous way too.
Yeah, he's a great writer.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so I guess speaking of writers, would there be any script writer who you would want to work with?
Boy, there's so many great writers in the horror genre. I don't really know. Um,
Well, and I mean, it certainly doesn't have to be in the horror genre. It can be sci-fi, drama, comedy, western.
well, I must say, the Yellowstone writer Armstrong is pretty great, isn't he?
Oh
He's
yeah.
and um, the writer of um, what was that series? Uh, I can't think. Ozark.
Yeah.
Ozark was a great writer. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Well,
I also, not to interrupt, but I also like David E. Kelly. I think David E. Kelly is one of our best writers, and most of the stuff that's out there that is a huge success has his name on it. He he's written so many things in the past, but all of a sudden he's got like everything that's great on Netflix is David E. Kelly. So um, you can't go wrong with him.
oh yeah, certainly. And I can imagine that he must feel proud of himself, like knowing that all the hard work that he's put in, like, is paying off. And
Mhm.
and yeah, and I mean, that's something what I feel like that's something like what anybody would be proud of, knowing that their hard work is paying off. And yeah, well, I certainly hope that you can have your chance to work with those people.
Succession was a great series, also. Um, and I forget his name. He's a great writer, also. I have to look it up. He got me stumped here, but yeah, Danny Gilroy's a good writer, also.
Oh yeah,
You like
certainly.
Danny Gilroy, yeah.
So yeah, so I mentioned script writers. Would there be any sort of directors like or actors who you would want to work with as well?
Directors, I think. There's so many great ones, I think. Um,
Spielberg, Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan's great. I think Spielberg is one of my favorites. Um, I can't think of who's better than him. Um, yeah, Christopher Nolan. He's really something, isn't he?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I mean, considering that Oppenheimer was like a summer blockbuster hit, like when usually biopics usually aren't summer blockbusters. Like usually it's like action movies, like say Transformers or Mission Impossible or something like that. It's usually not biopics. And just knowing that he made a biopic that was a summer blockbuster, that's impressive.
Greta Gerwig is somebody I'd love to work with. I think she's so talented and so great. So that would be a dream to work with Greta Gerwig.
Oh yeah, certainly. Well, and I mean, if you put in the hard work and
Mhm.
and yeah, and I mean, I certainly believe that it can happen.
Anything can happen. Anything's possible. We've learned that, haven't we? Anything's possible.
Yeah, as long as you set your yeah, as long as you set your mind to it.
Hmm.
So
I
yeah.
think I think Quentin Tarantino is going to stop directing. I think he's done. I think he's got one more film in him. But Part Five was his favorite horror film. Did you know that?
I actually did not, and yeah, and I can imagine that.
He's talked about it. Friday the 13th, Part Five is his favorite of that genre. You know.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I can certainly imagine that you must have felt happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that, knowing that a movie that you were in like happens to be one of Quentin Tarantino's
Yeah.
tops. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think he liked it for different reasons, though. I think he thought it was um, old school, kind of sleazy, dark, was darker than most of them. I think that's what he said was his vibe about it, why it's his favorite.
Yeah,
Dark and sinister.
yeah, and a lot of the people like, who are on the pro Part Five side, like, will say that it has some of the best kills, and I definitely do agree that Part Five has some great kills like that.
Really?
Yeah, like
Okay.
that. There's that kill where like Roy kills that guy with like that belt around his head
Oh,
around the.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah. I also like that kill where like he has like those giant pair of scissors, and then he stabs Deborah Voorhees through her eyes. I'm like, oh, that's
Oh,
brutal.
horrible. And they're all brutal. I couldn't even watch them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why, like, for somebody on your behalf, like, who isn't really all that interested in horror movies. So yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's something that I heard too. I heard that Quentin Tarantino has one more movie in him.
Hmm.
Maybe, maybe he just feels like it's time for him to move on. But I mean, regardless if he does or not, I mean, the legacy that he's left behind, it's definitely been quite the something for him to leave
Hmm.
behind when he
Hmm.
eventually passes.
Yep. Yep. I think Brad Pitt should direct. I think he's a very interesting character. I think he's insightful, and I would love to see him direct something.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, according to my research, I don't know if Brad Pitt has ever directed anything, but
No,
it would be interesting if he did.
yeah, I think it's something that he should do. I think he'd have the talent for it. I don't know if he has the desire to do it, but I think he'd be a very interesting director.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that I never thought of, but now they say it, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I certainly would go watch a movie that he
Mhm.
directed. I feel like that if a movie studio paid him enough, I think that if not the desire, I feel like the paycheck probably could too.
Yeah, I don't know because it's a whole different thing from acting. It's very difficult, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, considering that a lot of the movies like is in their hands.
That's it, and it's all on you. It's a endless job, you know. An actor, you finish your scene, you're done for the day, you go home. A director, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I guess as far as directing, have you ever thought about trying to give that a shot?
No, I don't think it's something that I don't think I'm inclined in that area. I don't, it doesn't interest me. I've directed theater pieces, but directing film, I don't think would be a joyful experience as because of how I've seen it, watched it, you know. Um, I've met some great directors. John Milius is a great director. They are a whole different breed. They love every second of it. I met Francis Coppola. You know, they are driven. They have the talent for it. They have the vision, and it's all they want to do. So that's the best director.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I guess that just depends on the person. It depends on their
Exactly.
values.
Exactly.
So
I
yeah,
think, I think Richard Dreyfuss, who I've met and I love, and we're friends, I think he would be a great director. I don't think he has the patience or wants to, but I think he is one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. I think he's so smart, and I think he would have been a great director.
yeah. Well, I guess if he ever changes his mind, it definitely would
I
be
don't
very
think
interesting
I
to
don't think
see.
so, but I think he'd do. I think he'd be just a great director.
Yeah, I guess it's ultimately up to him if he wants to or not.
Hmm.
But yeah, so thank you for answering all that. And so, would there be any dream role of yours?
Oh God, there are quite a few. My one of my idols was Gina Rollins, who just passed away,
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
she played some of the best female roles. There aren't a lot of great roles for women anymore,
That's a shame.
you know, but she really embodied all of them. So I would love there to be a role for female. Like I said, there are few and far between where um, she's strong, she has a vulnerability. You get to see the whole story. She's not just someone's girlfriend or wife or the mistress or the whore or the, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole story of a whole life. Meryl Streep plays those roles. She gets fortunate enough to get those roles, you know. But there aren't a lot of them. I think it's getting more so. I think they're getting more and more of them. I just saw Fly Me to the Moon. It's a story uh, about a woman. I don't want to give it away, but it's out there now. It's great, written by Rose Gilroy, and it shows every aspect of this woman's life and everything she went through and everything she felt in detail. And so it's very well done. That's a dream role for any female.
Oh yeah, certainly. Well, and I mean, I definitely hope that well, I certainly hope that you do achieve that, because I can imagine that
Me
that would
too.
be,
Maybe I'll just write it. How
yeah,
about that? Maybe I'll just write it.
yeah. And I mean, if you feel like that's what your heart truly desires, is to, write it. I mean, why not, right?
That's it.
But yeah, so I guess with that in mind, besides that, would there be any like dream projects that you would want to do?
I'd like to do a play in New York City. Doesn't have to be musical, though that would be great because I still sing and dance. But yes, my dream is to do something in New York, preferably Broadway stage, but I'll take off Broadway. And yes, that is my ultimate dream.
Awesome. Well, did you have like any Broadway shows in mind? Like, would it be any of the big name ones like Phantom of the Opera, or would it be one of the?
I'd like to do something original, you know,
Yeah,
not something that's already been done. I'd like to do. I did a lot of stuff in New York, and they were all original projects. Um, and so I'd like to get back to that. Yes, there are a lot of revivals. Cabaret is on Broadway now, and my favorite Adam Lambert is in the lead.
awesome.
Yes, he just started. So I would like something original.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people also would have the same assessment, like about how people are getting tired of seeing the same thing.
Reboots. Yeah.
And yeah, and like people are demanding for more original ideas, but then,
Mhm.
but the thing is, a lot of the stuff that has the bigger name value,
Makes
there's a reason.
money. They don't
Yeah,
want to take a chance on something new. It's very sad. Years ago, they gave it a shot. Now they want a sure thing, so they'll do something that's been done before, and they don't want to take any chances because they don't want to lose any money. They used to take the chance, and that's how we had so many new great things. And we don't have that much anymore.
yeah, and I mean, just to imagine that at one point, Friday the 13th wasn't a big name, and at one point, all of these other big name properties originally that they weren't a big name.
No, they would have never. They never would have never made it. Robert Englund would have never been a household name. They wouldn't have taken the chance on him because he was relatively unknown at the time. Robert had done a lot. I know him very well, and he had worked a lot. But they wouldn't have taken a chance on any of us. Now, no.
Yeah, and I mean, a lesson that I've learned in recent years is that sometimes that you do have to take risks, because if you don't take that risk, you could miss out on an opportunity.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, and I mean, just imagine if instead of getting Friday the 13th and Halloween, like imagine if instead that we continued getting like new Frankenstein or Dracula movies, even though that, yes, we certainly did at that time, but I mean, it's also good to know that that rather than getting like another Frankenstein, that instead that we got something new and original, that became what it is now.
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean, nobody likes to have a missed opportunity,
No, but there are a lot of them. Yeah.
as sad as that is. But I mean, when they do happen, what matters most is that you learn from it and that you adapt, and then you just grow as a person.
That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so yeah. So we mentioned about you, like what would you do with your character? But if you had that say for what you would do with a part 13, I guess overall for like what they could do with Jason, there are people saying that, oh well, maybe to have it take place in like the winter. That sounds like a cool idea, but yeah. So if you had to pick an entirely new direction for the franchise, like as far as like location or
Mhm.
anything else goes, besides what you said about your character,
Mhm.
what direction would you take it in?
Yeah, it's interesting to do it in the winter. It seems like they were all done in the summer, weren't they? I never really paid attention to that. So do it in the winter in a foreign country. Do it in London in the winter.
Yeah, in London, that would be really, really interesting. It's because
Take
all of
on all the old history. Yes, America is a very young country, so take it to very, very old, sinister, macabre. You know, the land of the Tower of London and dungeons and you know.
yeah, and I'm concerned that every other Friday the 13th movie will, besides Jason X, like all of them like have taken place in America, while Jason X didn't even really take place on Earth, and so
No, jolly old London in one of those castles, you know, in the dungeon.
yeah, and I feel like that could be a great callback to all the Universal monsters, all that
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Dracula and Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
huh? I definitely really like that idea. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, why didn't we come up with that sooner?
Because it costs too much money, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps, or I guess nobody thought of it sooner. I mean, hard to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one idea that I've heard like for 20 years now is Michael versus Jason, like Michael versus Jason, or but yeah, So I guess in your own opinion, who do you feel like would win?
Again, is Michael versus Jason? Is that what you
Yeah,
said? Who
yeah,
will win? That's a tough draw, but I still think Jason's going to take him down.
yeah. I mean, considering that Jason's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Michael's pretty powerful too, but yeah, Jason. I mean, he definitely seems to be a lot more tough. So
Thinks on his feet. Yeah.
yeah, things on his feet, and yeah, and he definitely seems to be a lot more violent and a lot more aggressive. So yeah, so I think it would make sense if it would be Jason. So yeah, so I certainly greatly appreciate you taking out the time. Would there be anything that you would want the audience to like? Are there any upcoming projects besides your book that you would want the audience to know about and to look forward to?
Well, I've got. I'm in talks for another feature. Um, and what else? And I told them about the conventions coming up Friday the 13th, September 13th and 14th. And then I told them about the one in October in Kingman, 4th, 5th, and 6th of October in Kingman, Arizona. But I think that's it. I think that's what we've got going that I can talk about.
Awesome, and yeah,
Everyone who's on my social media, I'll keep you up on what I'm doing um, as I can talk about it, you know.
yeah, it's perfect. You say that because yeah, I mean, as soon as I put this video up, I can leave a link for all that so that people can follow you on Instagram and Facebook and
Mm-hmm. And
keep
Twitter
up.
and X, yeah.
Yeah, and keep up with all your projects and yeah, and I definitely will look forward to watching them. I will look forward to reading the book, and I do get it. Like with NDAs, you don't want to mess with those.
Right.
Yeah, you better keep your mouth shut. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that I've had to learn for myself with that country music video that I was in, and even for a horror movie that I was just cast in. Yeah, I mean, if you break those NDAs, kiss your career goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be careful when they ask you not to talk about it. I take it seriously. I mean, there's probably a few things I could talk about, but I don't want to tread the line, so I'm quiet about all of it. You know.
Which is good. And I mean, I definitely would say that that's the smartest route that you can go about it. And yeah, and I certainly give major props for you, about all that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, certainly was an honor to have you on.
Well, it was a pleasure being on. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, of course. Any last final words? And what would you say is some pretty good life advice, like for all the people watching?
Well, you know what? I think it's basically never to give up. I'm still here. So don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. You have to have self-confidence. That's number one. You have to have a love for it, and nothing can stop you if you have a love for it and a drive and the confidence. Nobody can tread on that. They will try, there'll be some adverse comments or roadblocks, but just keep plugging, just keep trudging through it, and you'll get there. Believe me, you'll get there.
Exactly. And I guess just to add on top of that, you can fail at what you don't want. Yeah. So you might as well should go take a chance at doing what you love.
Do what you love. Do what you love. And nobody can take that away from you. And I've learned one door closes. It sounds like a cliche. One door closes and you think, oh God, that was it. Another one's going to open. It may not be right away, but it always does. And you have to be smart enough and keep your eye open for that door, because sometimes it's a very small entry, but you have to be aware, keep your eye open, and go through that new door.
Exactly, because life is just too darn short.
You have to have the courage also to just keep plugging through and take all the new opportunities that come your way. Don't hold yourself back,
Exactly, because no one's going to believe in you until you believe in yourself.
That's it. That's it.
All righty. Well, I certainly greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on here. And
thank you. My pleasure.
Of course. And I hope you have a fantastic day.
You too. Thanks again for having me. And bye to all the fans. Thank you to the fans.
Yeah, of course. And we'll be sure to keep in touch.
Thank you.